Good day. This is the Philip Koerper Show. I'm Philip Koerper. This is episode 63, November 6, 2018. This is election day. Now, I know Michael Knowles was joking that Republicans vote today and Democrats vote tomorrow. No. This is election day for everybody, although that's a pretty funny joke. And I am feeling pretty good. I'm a little nervous. We'll see what's going to happen. We're going to see what's happened. I mean, when you go to Google, if you click on the Google Doodle, it's so ironic. It takes you to these where to vote and things like that. And then you look at the top stories. And for me, I mean, I like go to Fox News, other conservative websites. I try very hard not to click on CNN or the New York Times or other things like that. I read those things kind of when they're quoted by others. Sometimes I do read them, but usually don't want to give them the clickbait, the advertising, the clicks that they want for advertising. But Google and others are saying this is so much at stake. This is the most important election in history. I mean, this is funny. This is the midterms. We're not even voting for the president. Yes, it'd be great if the Republicans held on to the House. They've got a 23-seat majority. So yes, of course, we don't want to lose control of the House. We don't want to lose control of the Senate. That's at stake. But we'll see. It's interesting. The Donald has just been everywhere. I mean, incredible effort. He's tweeting like every 20 minutes. He's endorsing people. He endorsed my congressman, Andy Barr, earlier today. He's in apparently a tight race with Amy McGrath. I find it hard to believe that this race is going to be really that tight. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. But I find it very hard to believe. And I think the Republicans are really making their case. Strong on border security, strong on the economy. The economy has been great. Lower taxes, lower regulations, booming economy, great foreign policy successes. I think, and I just love it how the Republicans are really tying themselves to Trump, not embarrassed to be with him. He is adding them, giving them a boost. This is a fascinating article by J.T. Young in the American Spectator saying Democrats are right to be worried. For them, the voter map of 2018 too closely resembles 2016, and we know how that turned out. Democrats are right to be worried by polls showing their falling midterm margins. They got lost following this map 2 years ago. The reason for their loss then and their legitimate worry now is that President Trump won his votes to maximum electoral vote impact, and that impact closely replicates today's congressional map. Polls clearly show Tuesday's races tightening. Rasmussen's last generic ballot poll before the election had Republicans narrowly polling ahead of Democrats 46 to 45%, erasing last week's 3% deficit. While one poll does not a trend make, it is clear others also show a shrinking gap. President Trump's ratings are rising. Just 3 days ago, Rasmussen's daily tracking polls showed his approval rating at plus 4%, 51% approval to 47% disapproval. If that does not seem overwhelming, consider he won the White House with 46% of the popular vote, while Clinton received 48% of the vote. That means Trump is plus 5% over his November 2016 total, and his disapproval at minus 1% below Clinton's. Within those figures, his strong approval rating was 37% and his strong disapproval rating was 40%. As a proxy for intensity, minus 3% means the gap is virtually non-existent. I really do feel that the Donald is really rallying the cause. He is a popular president right now, and he is very energetic to support others and to encourage the GOP to get out and vote. The Kavanaugh bump was really real. And this caravan bump is real too. Who is going to support a horde, a mob of lawless people throwing rocks coming up from Mexico? There have been convicted criminals in the caravan. Their Guatemalan president said some people are from Bangladesh in the caravan or down there being deported, 100 of them. So anyhow, the CNN, I just couldn't help but watch today, and they are just saying Donald is spreading fear. It's fear. Fear of this xenophobia, this fear of foreigners and things like that. No, I mean, not so much. We don't like, why let criminals in our country? Please explain to me. I'm confused. How does that benefit our country if we let criminals into our country? This is not fear. This is just common sense. Total common sense. So I feel very optimistic. I think the Senate, it really looks good. It looks like we might even gain, the Republicans might even gain some seats in the Senate. And in the House, before some were saying that we were going to lose 30 to 50 seats. Obama lost, I think, 60 seats. I just don't see that happening. And you never know. Anything's possible. But I have a really good feeling, hoping and praying that the Republicans can hold on to the House. Nancy Pelosi is Speaker. It'll just be gridlock, and that's checks and balances. She won't be able to get anything through the Republican Senate, very few things, or the Donald. But the Donald can compromise, and maybe we can get a good immigration policy. But I don't know. Both parties are really entrenched right now. So they're pretty dug in, so it's going to be hard. But if we have 2 years of nothing going on, that's better than a leftist agenda being crammed down our throats like Barry did for us. So either way, we're going to be fine. Marsy's Law. I was at work today. I was trying to encourage people. A lot of people asked me about Marsy's Law. In Kentucky, we're voting on this law to give more rights, 17 rights, to victims. And so that sounds good. I mean, no one wants the victims to be taken advantage of them. Taken advantage of people. I mean, we want to throw criminals in jail, and we want to treat the victims as well as we can. So on the surface, this sounds like a good thing. And that's what it is. It's on the ballot of Kentucky. Do you want an amendment that gives rights to victims? So, but basically, as I understand this law would just make the whole legal process much more difficult for the government to throw bad people in jail, and then giving rights to the victims. And sometimes we don't even know if they're a victim. So giving more rights to someone like Christine Blasey Ford and less rights to the offender, for example, in this illustration, Brett Kavanaugh, that is no good. And you can see that. The accuser, the burden of proof is on the accuser, as it should be. You're innocent until proven guilty. So if someone accuses you of something, you don't really even have to defend yourself. The accuser has to prove. So when this Marsy's Law got going in California, the teachers' unions were against it because they were afraid that students and other people would accuse them of wrongdoing, and they wouldn't be able to defend themselves because the accuser would turn out to be the victim, and then the teacher would have a disadvantage in the court of law. And I think that's really true. Our prosecutors right now are overwhelmed with all the things they have to deal with in just trying to get the bad guys to trial and get them in jail. So if they have to include the victims in all of the legality of that legal process, it's going to be a huge burden, very expensive, very time consuming. The prosecutors are already overwhelmed with cases to try. and they have to pick and choose which cases to try. Giving all these rights to victims would only make that more difficult. Vote no. This is amazing what happened on Saturday Night Live. And I love the response of Republican candidate Dan Crenshaw. He has a patch over his eye, and he fought in the Army as a Navy SEAL. Well, actually, not the Army, in the Navy. He's a Navy SEAL, and he was injured in combat. And so he's mocked on CNN and made fun of. And I love his response, because he doesn't go, oh, I don't want to call out this guy to apologize. This was Pete Davidson who made fun of him. But he says that this can be, this is really, unfortunate to make light of people who go and fight and defend our country and our freedoms in the military, with military service, and they get injured, and then this Pete Davidson just mocks their injuries. So this is definitely making fun of veterans and their disabilities from war is probably not, good grief, not the best thing to joke about. So anyhow, I do like that people, I think our skins, or at least with the media, our skins get so thin, and there's so much people are just mockingly are offended by things and triggered by certain things. It's the whole snowflake mentality. So I think we'd be better served if we wouldn't be so politically correct, that we can joke and laugh about a lot of different things, even some things that are unsavory like this. I mean, we can move on and just not laugh and not make such a big deal and a big political statement. And I really like how Dan Crenshaw seems to be getting above these stupid jokes by Pete Davidson that aren't really funny, but Dan Crenshaw's just going to move on. I think he's showing a good example of us not getting bogged down in this political correctness. And speaking of that, I love it. The Donald tweeted today, polling locations, and he's got a link, get ready to vote GOP. And the lead comment on Twitter when I got on there was, why doesn't it surprise me how partisan you are? Find your polling place at vote.org. Now, I have not gone to vote.org, but I bet you it's very liberal leaning. Okay, there's biases. Just like when you click on the Google. I mean, eBay sent me an email. I think I mentioned this yesterday. Oh, to go out and vote. eBay. Okay, and then I clicked on their thing, and that's all of their issues, their liberal issues. Yeah, I discussed that yesterday. And so Google's actually doing the same thing. And now, it's just ironic. Of course, the Donald is partisan. He is a politician. He is a Republican. He is a member of the Republican Party. He is partisan. Being partisan is not such a bad idea. Okay, if someone accuses you of something and you go to a court, you'll have your lawyer who will work on defending you. Okay, and then there'll be like a prosecutor or another lawyer who will be trying to throw you in jail or pay a fine or something. That's what the whole idea is. It's an adversarial relationship. So you've got one lawyer arguing one side of the coin. You've got another lawyer arguing a different side of the coin. Which is right? This is politics. And we have parties that do this kind of debate. And so we can hammer out these ideas. One party will talk about all the good things about it, and the other ones will talk about the bad, the negative. And so we can have a spirited debate. We can hash it out and for ourselves decide where we want to go on this. Of course, the Donald is partisan. This is how it works in our politics. Actually, this is how it's working in our media too. We have incredibly leftist media for the most part. CNN, MSNBC are good examples. NPR. I mean, just listen to the stories they choose. You can click back and forth, and I do that on the TV. And there'll be CNN is negative on Trump, and Fox News is positive on Trump. They both have their own biases. Okay, but they should report truth, right? But they'll be able to pick the stories that they want. And then the opinion makers, they can pick them and to represent their cause. And CNN does that. Now, speaking of that, Michael Knowles is just hilarious. And he tweeted what the joke, the political, old, tired political joke of you get the opposite party to vote the next day. You say that's when the election is, because they probably don't even know. And he joked about that, and nothing happened until Donald Trump Jr. retweeted it. And then Twitter locked Michael Knowles' account. Okay, basically, no real violation of policy. It's just a joke. He's joking about the election. And so they shut him down. This is really, truly amazing. Well, now Michael Knowles has got a little mustache on his picture. And his new name on Twitter is definitely not Michael Knowles. But anyhow, this is just really incredible. They are, I mean, is Twitter a platform, or are they a platform, or are they a publisher? Which one are they? Are they a platform like the phone companies were, where you could get on the phone and you can talk about anything? Total free speech as you speak on the phone. That is a platform. But a publisher is responsible for the content it provides. So if Twitter is a publisher, so they are banning speech. And so Michael Knowles made a point to Twitter, and he complained. He said, all of these leftists have made jokes like this. How come they're not getting in trouble? So what Twitter did is just deleted those tweets. So they're extremely biased. And we have, I think, quite a bit of evidence that Twitter is banning conservative speech. Banning it. It's like book burning. They're burning conservative books. So they're acting like a publisher, not a platform. A platform would just let free ideas just go with very few restrictions. So this is, I think, a very good point, what's going on. And they are really colluding. These liberal tech companies are really colluding in this election. They're messing things up by banning conservative thought and by letting liberals get away with it. Louis Farrakhan, calls Jews, Satan worshipers, basically. I mean, Louis Farrakhan is such an anti-Semite. And yet he's allowed to do this on social media, and he's got a blue check. I mean, they just let him go. He called Jews termites. I mean, just incredibly inflammatory speech. Now, should Louis Farrakhan be banned from this kind of rhetoric? Now, I personally say no, he should not. I really believe in freedom of speech. I believe in it. I will willing to sacrifice my life to allow people the freedom to speak. It's so important. It's so elemental in the foundations of this country. But when just conservative speech is banned and forbidden on these social platforms, there's a story about Facebook doing the same thing. So they are influencing the election. Remember all the video, the Friday, thank God it's Friday, or the video that Google does, and the one right after the election, and just how upset the Google hierarchy was that Donald Trump won. They were just in dismay, and they assumed everyone who worked at Google did not vote for Donald Trump and that he was bad and an evil person. So much ad hominem attacks. Yeah. So these tech companies, very liberal. I love it. Michael Knowles tweets, vote Republican down the ballot. If a Republican isn't running, write in Brett Kavanaugh. Vote against mobs, censorship, open borders, anti-radicalism. Vote for record high prosperity, jobs, relative peace, liberty, law, and order. MAGA. I love it. Michael Knowles is right on. Now compare that to MSNBC. They've got this tweet. The countdown is on for the most important midterm elections in a generation. I mean, what does that mean? By their from Morning Joe until the last vote is counted all day today on MSNBC. And they've got this little montage thing of just a bunch of liberals, starting off with one of the Parkland shooter students. Extremely liberal leftist stuff. So that's okay. MSNBC, they're going to push the left's agenda. We know that. Hopefully they're honest, at least in the reporting, but they're going to pick the stories that support their agenda. Meanwhile, speaking of journalists, Michigan journalist caught saying Republican John James' victory would suck, report says. A Michigan newspaper scribe was fired after leaving a voicemail to Republican Senate hopeful John James' campaign, saying that if he defeats the longtime Democrat incumbent, Senator Debbie Stabenow, it would suck. Man, if he beats her, he uses the Lord's name in vain, effing John James. That would suck. I don't think it's going to happen, though. Brenda Battle, a reporter for the Huron Daily Tribune, reportedly said in a voicemail to the James campaign. I mean, these reporters, wow, they're way beyond even pretending like they're doing fair reporting. They're totally opinion-making people. Well, people are going to have biases, but they're not even trying. They've really given up trying to be fair. This is a funny story on the Daily Caller, this MSNBC reporter. These people parked behind these people in this handicap parking spot. And then this veteran couldn't even park in the handicap parking spot and had to find another spot. Really bad publicity there. And let's talk about, we're talking about wild, crazy leftists. Let's just mention Ocasio-Cortez. Okay, the Democrat socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is a Daily Wire story. Still can't answer how Americans can afford to pay an estimated $4 trillion in big government programs, which includes a socialist healthcare system for all. She also now claims that opponents who ask her tough questions haven't earned the right to ask. And so in this recent interview, she's asked about this cost. And she just goes, well, you just pay for it. Okay. It's so funny. Remember this socialist healthcare. You can't have these three things. You can't have quality healthcare and cheap healthcare and everyone get access to that healthcare. You can't have all three of those. Okay. For example, if you have high quality healthcare, all right, and then high access, everyone can get at it. Okay. That is going to be super, super expensive. So it won't be cheap. Okay. The cost of that will be very expensive. It won't be cheap. You can't have quality, access, and cheapness. Cheap. Can't have that. So, for example, you can't have cheap healthcare, and if you have cheap healthcare and everyone has access, you can't have the third. You can't have quality. It's going to be low quality medical care, healthcare. We won't be able to afford it for everyone to be really fancy. It's going to be low quality stuff. So long lines for total joints, total knees, total hips, long lines for surgery, long lines in the emergency room. Okay, you're going to have to wait. We're going to have to share all these doctors. We're not going to be able to afford all of them if everyone has access and all the sick people got total access. So that is really the dirty little secret in medicine. And this principle really applies to resources and socialism and Ocasio-Cortez promising, all these big government programs. We all know if we all got Medicare for all and we wanted all of these services and everybody has access to all these services, the cost will be prohibited. We're going to have to lower the cost, so therefore we're going to have to either deny access or deny quality. I mean, there's no other way to do it. That's going to happen. So it's not just magically going to be awesome healthcare for everyone at a cheap price. It just ain't going to happen. I wanted to close with, I was thinking of the better angels of our nature. That's such a great quote from Abraham Lincoln. And this is from his first inaugural address. This is 1861. Okay, this is right before the Civil War. He said, "I am loath to close. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies, though passion may have strained it, must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot, graved to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union, when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature." Thank you so much for listening. I'm so excited about the election. It's great to live in a republic as we are, to be able to vote and to be able to elect politicians who carry out our desires. It's such a great country that we can do this in a peaceful manner. And there will be debate, and there will be surprise, and there will probably be disappointment. But I hope it's not me who's disappointed. I hope tomorrow I'm very happy if the Republicans can hold on to the House and the Senate. That will be a huge victory for Donald Trump. I want to just close with this idea that if Donald Trump is so awful, and the ad hominem attacks that the left makes at him, oh, he's not presidential, he shouldn't act like this, they just go over that over and over again. If he is such a bad president, why are his approval ratings going up? Why isn't this a huge Democrat wave, the blue wave they were talking about? I mean, who knows? It still, of course, can happen. We don't know until everyone votes. But we will see. But it seems to me that the Donald is doing quite well. It's quite popular. His rallies are very well attended. We'll see. We'll see if that's really true. We'll see if this election is going to be like 2016, and I hope so much that it is. I hope and pray. Well, thank you for listening. This is Philip Koerper, copyright 2018. You can subscribe at iTunes or SoundCloud, or watch the video at the Philip Koerper Show on YouTube. Have a great day. Thanks.